Now you all have been waiting for this one. This is your tier list. You have ranked each and every spec in here for range DPS and Mythic Plus, and I'm quite goddamn curious what people voted for Boomkins. Because I love Boomkins. Do you love Boomkins?
Oh my god, well, obviously I love Boomkins, man. You know I love my chicken, and I was actually just playing it yesterday, and it turns out that if you don't play for too long, you kind of start to suck. I was just not doing the right damage, man. I was doing the keys on stream, and I was not doing the right damage, and people were just like waiting for me to, you know, get my shit together. I was like, all right, listen. I popped up on the Warcraft logs app, seen that my Starfire cast were just like super low, and that does not, you don't do that. That's not, that's bad. So I just like swapped my mentality around my rotation. Okay, I gotta cast more Starfires, and lo and behold, I actually did more damage.
Yeah, it's very similar to like when I used to play at the beginning Outlaw, and I was doing shit damage in dungeons, and everybody was doing the amount of damage. I was like, shit, it's basically the same thing with Blade Rush for Outlaw. It's very useful. Like the Warcraft Lost Companion app definitely makes you better, and if you know what you done wrong and you can see the number of casts and all of that, it's quite easy. Just pop it up from within the game. It has a little icon over there, and you see all the details and see where you are sucky and get bettery. So thank you, Warcraft Logs Companion app, for sponsoring the video. Make sure you check the link in the description and install it. It takes like 2 seconds. It supports us, it supports our content, and it makes your life way better, makes you a better player. All right, now let's start it off. Affliction Warlock, baby. Let's check out the votes. We have a total of 205 responses. So for Affliction Warlock, it's quite a tied situation here. Yeah, you have like 32.7% voting it into C tier and like 30.7 into B tier. Obviously, there's quite a huge number of voters here who have placed it in D tier, like 20.6%. But
I mean, the majority of the votes are clearly in the middle pack, and that's kind of probably how Affliction is seen by the community. It's like, okay, it's not the worst, and I've seen that one Affliction that just like blasts in Algathar Academy, and we've seen it in MDI being used. But it's not the best either, so I think this kind of maybe, oddly enough, accurately represents where Affliction can kind of be. It's kind of middle of the pack. Obviously, it can blast if you're like, you know, the best player, Chalet player style, and you just melt the meters, but not everybody can do that, so maybe having it in the middle side of the spectrum is probably okay.
Well, accurate or not, the people have spoken. You see it here, it's 32.7% C tier, so that's where we're gonna place it.
C tier is gonna go.
It's your decision, boys and gals. Now, let's go to the Boomkin, and I'm very curious to see where I have this. Look at this, look at this. Okay, so listen, do you guys remember when we did our prediction tier list and you basically like jumped on our necks telling us how wrong we are about balance being like a top tier spec? Well, the community...
No, you guys actually voting on the same thing, and I can see that the majority is putting it into A tier with a 41.7%, but a lot are putting into S tier 33.7%. Now, as a Boomkin myself, it's kind of hard to pull off the damages in like lower-ish keys. That's probably where the majority of the players are. Maybe that's why there's a bunch of B tiers, a couple of C's and D tiers, because, you know,
those are the trolls.
You cannot really get the pump of the techno chicken properly until you get to the higher echelon, which is why probably we have quite a lot more A tier than S tier, even though Boomkin is probably statistically still the best caster in it. But that's not the point. The point is that you consider it to be A tier.
It's A tier. It's A tier. I mean, it's nice to eat your own words, ain't it? All right, let's see what Arcane Mage is doing. So, Arcane Mage is looking, I would say as expected, because we talked a lot about Arcane, and it's like it's not the easiest spec to pull off in Mythic Plus when you have like much more smoother and fast. I'm not talking about damage. Arcane can deal some massive damage, baby. For sure. It's not about that. It's about being fast, being efficient, and moving and getting access to everything really fast. Community kind of sees that, so I see like another big majority here places Arcane into B tier. However, we do have some votes for A tier, like 27.1%.
Kind of makes a little bit of sense because Arcane does a little bit of damage, so it's oddly enough, it's an even-ish kind of spread between A and C tier, so kind of all around B. So it's like this big fat cone and B with A and C to the side. So
we're gonna listen to yours, but again, this is your vote, so we're going to place it into a B tier. Now, next on the list, let's see, BM Hunter.
The most complicated spec. No, it's okay. It's
come
fine.
on, man. It's not. Stop it!
I've seen BM Hunters in dungeons not do that great, even though their gear is pretty good. So it's not complicated, but it's fine. A lot of A tier.
It's 100. Yeah, it's almost 50% of the votes went to A tier. I was kind of expecting this to be S tier by the community, but it's like closely by when you look at the number of S tier votes, like 45 votes over there and like 40 votes for B tier. Clearly, the majority here, like 100 votes.
I do have to mention that it's close to 50%. Like we've
overwhelming.
I know this is the second community tier list that we do, but we have looked at like a couple of dozen graphs already, and there are one or two that are overwhelmingly with everybody in on the same side. So you don't really see that much.
Wait until we get Shadow Priest.
Oh, you've seen it?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Okay, I'm curious.
All right. So this is an A tier. Listen, guys, we're not placing this is not like the community voted BM Hunter being better than Bunky. We're just placing everybody in the same tier, okay?
Definitely has nothing to do with your bias towards the chicken for sure.
No, I'm serious, okay? All right, let's get to the next one. Demonology Warlock. Yeah,
so surprised.
Yeah, me too. Again, this is another beloved spec by the community overall, and I was expecting a lot more votes for S tier, but I'm guessing most of y'all who voted actually make use of the data that you know and look at other tier lists, or you played it and you feel like, okay,
probably
this
from experience. Demonology is pretty good on fortified weeks in big AoE. It does suffer from the balanced Druid Shadow Priest issue, where in single target it starts to fall off behind other specs. Maybe that's why people don't see it, because we're just coming off of a tyrannical week, and you probably have felt the struggle of not having enough single target damage to get those bosses done. So maybe that's why there's more A than S tier. But even so, we're still seeing the kind of same spread with the majority in A, and
then we have a couple of S, and then a little bit of B. We have the trolls over here. Well, to be fair, it's only 2 people who voted for D tier, so it's fine. Once again, the people have spoken. Another A tier spec. Just placing it here randomly, no problem. Now let's move along to the Destruction Warlock, and look at this, baby.
Okay,
now
the Warlock getting some love.
I mean, Destruction was kind of like a community favorite, similar to Demonology, especially when you have fond memories of BFA and all of that. So I'm guessing, you know, it's pretty accurate for the most part, although kind of was expecting it to be more into B tier. Community voted for A tier, okay? So this is 38%. I'm not going to comment on that. I know some destructions may struggle in specific weeks.
I think destruction has risen a little bit in the last couple of weeks. I know Shelly's been playing destruction in high keys.
Shelly's played any Warlock spec and
Shelly's a beast,
damage,
man. He's the top 13 damage dealer in Mythic Plus on the Subtlety Rogue. But even so, Destruction does seem to be the ideal Warlock spec for pushing keys. Obviously, it starts to, you know, really pull ahead in bigger keys, and that's probably where you've seen it, that you voted with the majority in 8 with 38%. And I guess that is fair. It is in the same boat as, you know, Balanced Druid, where you don't really get the full value of it unless you're doing like
super high keys. Yeah, for sure. So let's listen to the people and put it in.
Just randomly in A tier, it's fine.
No, but
isn't it?
Yeah,
it A-tier,
I'm sorry. I was trying to troll a little bit. It's A tier, boys and gals. Next on the list, the Fire Mage. So we're
seeing a lot of A and B tiers.
Well, we've seen Fire Mage. We've seen it in the MDI. Obviously, it has risen from its flames. Like a phoenix.
By being infused with power.
Yeah, that's kind of what happens here. Very, very tight place ranking over here by you guys. So we have like 33.7% being in A tier and 32.2% in B tier. I don't know why anymore. Is it because it's that dependent on PI?
It's probably because a lot of people don't get a lot of value out of Fire Mage in the average level of keys, but what's surprising is that there's quite a few S tier, even though it's not the majority in S tier, there's still 18.6%.
Yes.
That's quite a few people that actually see it as one of the top, and I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I do think that to get it to be an S tier type spec, you probably need a lot more effort into it than a lot of other specs.
Yes, that is true, and a lot of people again have seen it being in the MDI and probably influenced by that as well.
Sure,
it can deal damage, but it still has some lacks on its profile, and I'm telling you, like even 2 or 3% buffs to its overall kit will just place it S tier, no problem. But the community has spoken.
For sure,
it's another A tier spec. We're just gonna place it here. No problem. I'm not putting any
run.
effort placing this here. Everybody's equal on the A tier, okay? No, don't get it twisted. Now, I think it's Frost Mage turn.
Oh, wow.
Look at this
Okay,
overwhelming
this is
majority.
definitely 50.5% of people voted it A tier. Now, to be fair, from the experience that I've had with mages, it does seem like Frost is really kicking some butt recently.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it's just more people playing it and actually doing, you know, what Frost has been doing a long time, or maybe, you know, over the course of a season, people get more accustomed to mechanics. You can definitely play your Frost Mage better because you do need like that constant back-to-back pulls to keep up your Icy Veins.
Yep.
That's kind of the playstyle similar to what we had in Shadowlands. So I'm seeing a lot of Frost Mages really like their Frost and doing good on Frost.
Yeah, even if you look at that logs and stuff, you can definitely see it in high keys. I mean, if you look at it on a weekly basis for Frost Mage, it's pushing higher and higher and higher keys.
Yeah.
And this is definitely a reflection on what the community, especially the folks who actually play it, can definitely see, sense and feel that power creep. I mean, sure, we have some votes for B tier, we have some for S tier, but we cannot really argue with this one. It's like the half of the pie chart here is for A tier. So once again, another A tier spec. All right, now next on the list, Hunter, baby.
Ooh, Hunter. Oh my god, I can't believe it's still getting 8. Okay, listen, so...
What? Do you have a problem with this?
No. Hunter, because I've also started to play it recently. It slaps, man. Jesus.
Yeah.
It's on Fortify Wicks. You slap as Hunter. It's surprising how much damage. And obviously, it has always done this damage. And I think... I haven't seen Hunters in like 2 months, at least in the keys that we normally do. And normally see it... obviously, you don't see it in MDI anymore. But it was one of the, you know, the poster boy coming into the Dragonflight Season 1 where, you know, a lot of people's like, oh my god, just slaps, just slaps.
It was S tier for a couple of weeks straight until other specs kind of kicked it in, like Outlaw Rogues and Subtlety Rogues and stuff like that. But
Rogues
once again,
general.
very potent spec, and it's absolutely known for its like huge burst, especially in AoE. Definitely worth it for an A tier. We've seen some votes for B tier. I really don't know why. I can lean more towards the S tier boys over here.
For sure.
But again, the community has spoken. Another S tier spec. Hold on.
It has to be random, man.
Yeah,
You
no, it's very
cannot
random.
deliberately put it into a place. It has
This
to be
was
random.
a glitch in the system. It's fine. All right, let's talk about Devastation Evoker. See what the people have said about it here. So,
wow. Okay, so this is very interesting. I don't think the melee has been this consistently with the majority in A
no,
tier.
there was a lot more like polarizing results over there.
What's fun about this one is that this is the most S tier votes we've seen so far for a spec. 32% of the people voting it for S tier. I mean, as a Devastation player as well, obviously that can be S tier in like lower keys. You can definitely see Devastation just cleaning house left and right, and you've probably seen your Devastation in your guild just do like massive damage. And that's actually kind of fun, but I think A tier is pretty appropriate, and it's funny how people see
the DPS spec feels like really easy to pull out. It's very smooth. Doesn't really require that much brain power to begin with. It's just it deals damage. I'm not sure about the single target, but definitely talking about Mythic Plus, you can see it shine. Another A tier spec, no problem. Let's move on to Elemental Shaman.
Almost there.
All right, Elemental Shaman. Look at this bad boy.
We're finally seeing some modern tiers.
Yeah, this is the thing. So I know a lot of the Ellie Shammies are pretty pissed. They have been doing like poopy performance overall in Dragonflight, especially in Mythic Plus, and you can see that reflected here. 36.3% voters for B tier, and A tier, I would say it's decent enough. I think this like people are really loving the spec, but we all know they need some love, right?
Yeah,
they need
Elemental unfortunately does really need some love. Like this is obviously a community tier list where you guys have voted, but we have done research on Elemental performance in M+, and unfortunately, no matter how hard Elemental pulls, it's just not. I'm surprised it's doing better than Affliction, because I think Affliction is a lot better than Elemental right now. But it's interesting to see how it's seen by the community and how people, because it's a little bit sad, sure. And I'm still surprised that you know, the majority of shamans are not enhancements yet. So.
Yeah. Well, I can stand behind like the votes for C tier. I don't know about the D tier. I think we've seen Elementals clear 24s. So let's just place it in B tier with Arcane.
Arcane was lonely there. Anyway,
it's a lonely place. But look at that big schlong of A tier. Now, the moment you've been waiting for. Let's check out.
This has
Are you
to
ready
be
for this?
This has to be S
Are you
tier.
ready for
There's
Shadow
no way
Priest?
this is an S tier.
Boom, baby!
Damn, 72%.
It's like the biggest majority we've seen.
That's so blue, man. That's a lot of blue.
It's like if this was a Frost Mage, it would have made sense, but no. It's,
Shadow Priest.
But Shadow Priest, so this is a very, very divisive topic because we know the rework is coming in for 10.1, and this, like right now, I know for the majority of your time playing Shadow Priest, you had fun. You find it interesting, right?
It's the best Shadow has been in years. I've been playing Shadow ever since BFA, and obviously the rework notwithstanding, it is a fun spec and it can deal a lot of damage. It's also the, I deal a lot of damage in big AoE and big keys, and the small keys are worse, but it doesn't suffer that much like Balanced Druid, like Demonology, like those kind of specs. It definitely doesn't suffer as much as like Fire Mage, which you've also seen. And obviously with the Power Infusion, it makes sense that a lot of people value Shadow Priest, not as much for the damage that Shadow is actually pumping, but for the damage that it provides with Power Infusion, which is, very strong.
Yeah. Plus the spec is giga fun to play. We have to mention that, and I'm pretty sure most of the votes here come from Shadow Priest mains, and they are absolutely in love with their spec. Not sure what will the community votes will be after the rework, but we'll have to see.
Yeah,
we've seen some people voted for A tier, but the B and C and even D tier, like, come on, guys, you cannot really. So this is like even compared to the melee tier list, this is like the biggest overwhelming majority vote for a spec we had so far. So, and you have to say, this is the only spec that goes into S tier.
Yeah, that's
everybody else.
Wow. Obviously, the meta is very melee favored right now, and one consistent catch that you see pretty much everywhere is Shadow Priest. So I guess it kind of makes sense in the vast scheme of things, where people just see and play with different kind of peoples and consistently see Shadow Priest just melting stuff. I think it's actually pretty good. It's very fun, and listen, as much as we try to be fair and point out the fact that you can play whatever you want and everything is doing fine, you guys made it so that the majority of the specs are A tier. A tier is very good. There are no specs that are D tier. Everything is doing really good. As much as we like to criticize the balance of overall classes and specs, the specs are actually in a good position to actually do the content.
Yeah, and you've seen our 16th tier list. Everybody's doing the same performance. So if you just want to get your primal concentrated focus and all of that and get some nice loot for you, everybody can do well, no problemo. But hey, this is your tier list. You rank these specs. I think it's pretty neat. It's pretty fun. We agree. But it's
pretty dope. Yeah, we kind of agree.
We agree with it. It's absolutely fine. Now, thank you, Patreons, for supporting the content. As always, you make all of this possible. And don't forget, Warcraft Lock's companion app in the description. Download it. Just have access to everything that you do, record, or the gameplay, and plus grades. Doesn't matter. You have it on one click within the game. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.